Welcome to episode 507 of an Unearthly podcast, where the new cast is the old cast. Streaming live on April 6th, 2024, featuring Miracle Day, Dead of Night, written by Jane Espenson and starring John Barrowman as Captain Jack Harkness and Eve Miles as Gwen Cooper. I am Bill Sylvia, the one in black, and I just realized I need to relearn how to add moderators to or add collaborators to a Twitch channel. With me are acting technical director Erin Romeo Moon Burke.
Hello.
And color commentator Alex Fireheart.
Hey.
Mad Matt will not be with us, I don't think due to any grave problems, but because he fell a little behind while he was unable to attend, and I don't think has seen this week's episode.
I've stolen his job.
Oh. I've fallen into one of my distressingly frequent patterns where I went to sleep so early on Thursday and Friday that I woke up this morning at 1 a.m. and I was like, well, that's just not going to do because I'm not going to be able to podcast if I'm up for 24 hours straight. So I took a couple of naps, one of which ended about 40 minutes ago, and I think I'm awake enough to go on. Also, I'm in an unusually high seat because I realized that my desk chair is rated for a weight about 60 pounds lighter than I was last time I checked. And at the rate it's going, if I keep using it, any day I'm going to land on my ass. So I just took one of the dining room chairs that I don't use, and I'm using it at my desk, which now puts me much higher because it's a high dining room table, and therefore I'm looking down at everything that I used to be looking up at. So I'm going to see if I can afford to go out and buy an actual desk chair where I'll be looking straight at everything. Imagine that.
I mean, I've basically been stuck doing that for a while now because I haven't had the money to get like a desk or a computer chair or whatever, so I'm stuck using a dining dining room chair.
I spend enough time at this desk that I'm very certain that give it 6 months, I'm going to have permanent neck pain if I stay in this in this chair. But that doesn't mean I can immediately afford to go out and replace it either.
Right.
We have got a lot of news.
We do. Any life updates with either of you before we start?
Because if nothing else, I'm realizing that if I stick with the hours I got now for the foreseeable, that I've realized that I'm going to have to start taking the bus in the morning, and I'm realizing now that basically means that if I want to actually eat before I leave, then I'm going to have to start waking up at like 6 in the morning so I can eat and get dressed and then catch a bus at like 7:30, which will still get me there like an hour before I start, which is on one hand is good, but it's also like I would rather get one that would get me there like 15 minutes before I start.
Can you take a bus to somewhere where you can just chill and eat breakfast? Or is it like too out of the way?
I mean, I work at a shopping center. So depending on what, I think McDonald's would be open by then. So I'd be able to get something.
I used to do that when I first started working at a call center. It was about a 15-minute walk from McDonald's. So I would take the morning bus, which was probably about 45 minutes to an hour before my shift. I would spend that time at McDonald's having breakfast and a coffee.
I
Grab another coffee when it was time to get moving and walk to work.
get up. I have to get up at like 4:30 in the morning to get a decent breakfast going and what do you call it? And get a little bit of exercise in, and I don't know. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I know your pain. I don't know.
Yeah, if I worked your hours, Aaron, I would just that would be the end of my day. I would wake up at sunset. I would live out. I would do everything else like overnight, and then I would go into work at the very end of my day.
Yeah. Like I could probably do that. Like I get up at my shift is from 7 a.m. until 3:30 p.m. So
So why for? Oh,
because
do you exercise and whatever?
I
But
exercise. I actually, I'll cook up eggs and like make coffee and stuff, and I have to feed and clean the cats, and sometimes I have to make. I'm like lazy sometimes, so I forget to make lunch at night. So then I have to make it, or I have to take a shower. I try to do everything as much as I can before the streams I have, and before I go to bed. So, like, I'm trying to go to bed at 9, but I've gotten into a really bad habit of staying up until 11. And so getting up at 4:30 after just falling asleep at 11 is just murder. I hate it.
Yeah. Mm.
yeah, maybe I can be that like coordinated in my day if I actually get my ADHD assessment and get re-diagnosed and and get something for it. Definitely cannot in my current condition.
Yeah. Like it was that bad in 2020 when I was working 6 to 2 on weekends that I would just be like, fuck it, I'll wake up at 5, get dressed.
Yeah.
Minute
6 to 2 was like the first shift for the grocery store I worked at.
Alrighty, well, as Aaron mentions, we have a lot of news. So, on tonight's show, we have birthdays, deaths, and news. And I actually, luckily, I noticed a death on social media because it wasn't reported on any of our normal sites. Then we have some geek talk, depending on how much time we have, that is. And then our episode summary, review, final thoughts, and ratings. So, take it away, Alex.
Okay, thankfully my mic fixed itself. God, I'm really gonna have to get a new cord for this. Anyway, on the 25th of March, we have Patrick Troughton, the second Doctor from 66 through to 69, and also again in 73, 83, and 85. Would have been 104, but died in 1987 at 67. On the 26th of March, we have Richard Dawkins, who had a cameo in The Stolen Earth and Journey's End. Better known as famous evolutionary biologist and spouse of Lola Ward, turned 83. Also on the 26th, we have Barry Letts, who was the producer of Doctor Who from 1970 to 75, so basically the entirety of the Pertwee era, and executive producer for
You
season
started on
18.
episode 2 and then did one episode of the Baker era.
Yeah.
That's why I stuck with years.
Yeah. Would have been 99, but died in 09 at 84. On the 27th, we have Bernard Wilkie, who is a visual effects designer for 6 stories between 1967 and 1974. Would have been 104, but died in 2002 at the age of 82. On the 27th, We have Gareth David Lloyd, who played Yanto Jones from 06 to 2009 and probably has in Big Finish as well since. Turned 43. Also on the 28th, we have Nick Frost, who played Santa Claus in Last Christmas, better known for their roles in the Three Flavors Cornetto trilogy. Turned 52. On the 1st of April, we have John Scott Martin, who was a Dalek operator between 65 and 88. Would have been 98, but died in 2009 at the age of 82. Also on the 1st of April, we have Sydney Newman, who was the BBC head of drama from 61 to 67. Would have been 107, but died in 97 at the age of 80. On the 2nd of April, we have Robert Holmes, writer of 18 serials between 69 and 86. And was also the script editor of Doctor Who between 74 and 77. Also the creator of the Autons and Sontarans. Would have been 98, but died in 1986 at the age of 60. On the 3rd of April, we have Peter Howell, who was the title and incidental music composer from 80 to 85.
My
Turned
favorite
76.
opening.
And our current one.
And also on the 3rd, we have Peter Hawkins, who was a Dalek, who did Dalek and Cyberman voices between 63 and 67. Would have been 100, but died in 2006 at the age of 82. And finally, on the 6th of April, we have Mark Strickson, who played Vizsla Turlo from 83 to 84, and again in Big Finish since. Turned 65. So pretty sure he has.
He's done lots of Big
Yeah.
Finish, yeah. I should have put a plus there.
Just happy birthday to all of those names. There's a bit too many this time for me to go through.
And there's some repeats.
Hmm.
Cool.
And one last thing for you.
Yep. Unfortunately, we do have a lost story this week. We are saying goodbye to Adrian Schiller. God, it's been a while, so I'm not sure exactly when he died.
I think it was the 3rd.
Yeah, it says
Yes.
the 3rd here.
So
Yeah, 3rd of April. At the age of 60. He was a British actor known for seemingly just a lot of dramatic roles. I played Cornelius Penge in the historical drama Victoria, Monsieur d'Arc in the live-action adaptation of Beauty and the Beast. Specifically for the purposes of this podcast, he was in the 2011 episode The Doctor's Wife.
And it looks like this article doesn't say it. He played the character Uncle. It was surprisingly hard to find an article that even referenced Doctor Who that wasn't like a shitty tabloid. So this was the best we found, the best I found for that. But yeah, it doesn't name the role here either.
Also, apparently, he did a lot of, or at least did some video game voice work, including in the Assassin's Creed and Castlevania franchises, as well as doing either a or some voices in the third Fable game.
And Indiana Jones.
I'm not very familiar with him. Looks like he was
I
very
feel like he's
confident.
one of those. Yeah, it feels like one of those actors where I've probably seen him in something, but I wouldn't be able to uh pull him like right out from memory.
Mm-hmm.
Um so let's see, I'm trying to see if there's anything else I can find.
Don't think anything else that's super relevant to us. A
Mm,
lot of articles used as clickbait the fact that Jenna Coleman was the lead of Victoria,
right.
which again made it very difficult to find ones that actually referenced his Doctor Who role.
Mm.
But yes, so rest in peace, Adrian Schiller. I
Mm.
don't think it does it mention cause of death. I don't think so.
Uh just says suddenly and unexpectedly, so
Ah,
possibly I would say something like that, it would be health complications. Just not specified, probably because his family want to
I'm
either
like,
his family don't want to release it or they're keeping it quiet for now.
mhm. It's like I knew someone who died suddenly and unexpectedly. It was because they were doing yard work and their neck got broken by a falling branch. So
Oh wow.
all we know here is that they do not want to release it.
Mm.
All right. So moving on from that, we have quite a bit of episode news. It's very clear that the BBC is in publicity mode.
Mm-hmm.
First off, although this one's technically not under the control of the BBC, two of the 60th anniversary specials received Hugo Award nominations. So the Hugos are the big awards in sci-fi that are presented, voted on, and by the members of it, and presented at Worldcon. In this case, it was Wild Blue Yonder, directed by Tom Kingsley, and The Giggle, directed by Chania Button, both written by RTD, were nominated for Best Dramatic Presentation Short Form, basically Best Drama that's not a movie. And yeah, Worldcon is in August 2024 in Glasgow. So we have a bit to know before we find out who won. But there's that one. Next we have the. Oh no, I was looking at the wrong block of articles. Okay, yes. Yeah, so next we have the big one that would not have been at our last podcast, but since we delayed a week, it's prominent in this one. The episode titles for Series 1 have been released. So there is Episode 1, Space Babies, written by Russell T Davies, directed by Julie Ann Robinson. Episode 2, The Devil's Chord, that's the Beatles episode, written by Russell T Davies, directed by Ben Chessel. Episode 3, Boom, written by Stephen Moffat, directed by Julie Ann Robinson. Episode 4, 73 Yards, written by Russell T Davies, directed by Dylan Holmes Williams. Episode 5, Dot and Bubble, written by Russell T Davies, directed by Dylan Holmes Williams. Episode 6, Rogue, written by Kate Herron. That's the first episode not to be written by a showrunner this season. Sorry, Kate Herron and Briony Redman. Directed by Ben Chessel. Then Episode 7, The Legend of Ruby Sunday, written by returning Russell T Davies, directed by Jamie Donahue. That's the episode that Alex is probably going to hate. And then Episode 8, Empire of Death, written by Russell T Davies, directed by Jamie Donahue.
We've got a lot of news, so I don't want to linger on it too long, but I do want to mention that I'm wary of Russell doing 4 of the 8 episodes.
I think he's doing 6 of the 8 episodes.
Yep. 6 of the 8 episodes.
Ah, yeah, 6.
And
Yeah,
typically he
that's
typically he would also be writing episode 9, the Christmas special, although there's
Right.
reason to think that Moffat might have written that one.
On top of also, unless that was a confusion with thinking he was doing the special when he was just doing a normal
If that
episode.
one particular, I forget what role they played. If that one particular person wrote the wrong thing on their CV.
But yeah, like that's, I don't know. No showrunner should be writing that many episodes. I don't care how good a writer you are. That's stretching yourself thin.
It's the one thing. I mean, even if it's a writer's room situation, that still means that he's writing all of the dialogue for that many episodes, which is still a bit excessive.
Yeah. Plus, he's also got to script edit everyone else, so he's basically writing them all.
Yeah,
so
I'm going to be. They're probably not going to announce this. I'm going to try and take a peep at the credits, unless I forget, which is likely, to see if there's a separate script editor being appearing in the credits for his episodes.
Yeah,
because that was the case when he was showrunner the first time. I think William Russell was script editing RTD's. Yeah, Russell was editing Russell's episodes. That's not confusing at all. Also, in this episode, we have guest star Golda Rushuvel. I probably pronounced that terribly. Best known from Bridgerton, who is playing the character Jocelyn, who the Doctor and Ruby interact with in Space Babies. All right, and moving on, just good timing. Of course, this news came out the same day as those episode titles. We have the second trailer for season 1, and this time Cultbox was able to break it down into images for each episode. And yes, since we have a lot of news, and actually one of these news articles is a bit redundant. Oh well. Since we have a lot of news, we'll just go through this pretty quickly. The Space Babies portion. That's right. So Space Babies is the one with the dinosaurs and the space station. By the way, that creature that I thought was a Centauran last time, apparently that's Ruby. So I guess the idea is supposed to be that when he steps on the butterfly, it changes humanity, and then he fixes it real quick before time has time to gel, I guess. So we see Ruby on the space station, or we see what kind of looks to be Saturn, but could be an alien planet with rings. A monster called the Boogeyman. Very creative name. And then we see a bunch of babies, which I think in the trailer they were in the TARDIS. Or at least that was the impression I personally got. Jocelyn on the space station.
A very British-looking baby. Yep, we have Ruby's mom. Then we go on to episode 2. There's a songbook named The Devil's Chord. There's that shot of Abbey Road, which apparently there were some hyper Beatles purists tearing this image apart. But considering the actual Abbey Road, it doesn't look anything like that these days. This is a very faithful recreation.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have Jinx Monsoon as they just say the antagonist. I don't think we have the character name yet. I think these images might be from both trailers because some of them look familiar from the first trailer because we talked about them last time.
I do like his suit.
Mm,
Hmm.
yeah, that is a nice suit.
And generally, as I've said before, it's nice that seems that we're getting a Doctor who will actually change outfits to suit the time period.
Hmm. Then we have episode 3, Boom. Some close-ups on the Doctor, some Ruby looking at either post-apocalyptic or something that kind of looks that way. Fire, sure. She looks like she's staring longingly at the fire in this image, like a pyromaniac waiting to emerge. We have the Doctor stepping on a landmine, which maybe he will fix it with his magic wand, or maybe he will not. Then we have 73 yards. We have some good scenery. I think that's the one that we thought might be a Dr. Light episode, right?
I think so, yeah,
Mm.
because
Before we
that
had the
seems
title.
that seems like the cliff
Mm-hmm.
that the TARDIS was on, where it seemed like there was stuff growing up around it. So yeah.
Right. And then Dot and Bubble. There's this person that looks suspicious. There's this slug thing. And then there's the bubble.
Hmm.
I think that it
Uh,
might even be the person that I joked looked like Gwen Stacy last time.
Mm-hmm.
huh.
With the bangs and everything and the straight blonde hair.
Hmm. Yeah,
It
and
looks
like
like
a
there's
hairband as well.
yeah. It looks like there's like TV screens behind the dot and bubble title frame.
Hmm.
Possibly
Yeah.
like a Zoom thing or something.
Cultbox speculates that there's some sort of video game world involved.
Hmm.
Then it looks like Rogue is the Regency era episode. Uh, we see people.
1813, yeah.
The Doctor in fancy dress. And then, yeah, the two-parter, Legend of Ruby Sunday and Empire of Death, which is the present-day set episode. So, of course, we've got Rose, Noble, we've got Carla. We've got Snow, which always means supernatural when it's in London. We've got the scene of the Doctor promising he'll keep Ruby safe. And then the Doctor in a white t-shirt. All right. So I think not a ton new there to theorize about, although it does at least make it a little easier to cohesively view the episodes.
Yeah.
Following that up, we have our next set of cast announcements. 3 new cast members were announced. Welsh actress Dame, I don't know what that symbol is pronounced properly as. Sian Phillips. That's probably not correct. I don't know Welsh. Is best known for her award-winning performance as Livia in the BBC television series I, Claudius. She has also done work for Big Finish. Next is Kelly Cook in episode 5. No mention of the name, but that's the same person that Alex was just talking about being Gwen Stacy.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have Tasha Newall playing Winston Chidozi, who like gives Danny Pink vibes to me. Maybe it's the facial hair. I don't know.
Mm.
He was a regular in Waterloo Road and appeared in Pennyworth and the first of the new Dune movies.
He must have played one of the Fremen. I think he might have played the one that Paul has a duel with.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, anyway.
Speaking of people named Paul, we also have the names of the actors who played the Beatles. Paul McCartney is played by George Capel. Ringo Starr is played by James Hoyles. George Harrison is played by Philip Davies, and John Lennon is played by Chris Mason. No word yet if there will be a Yoko Ono.
Looks like it's too early for that.
I was going to say, that's possibly the impression I got, but I'm not exactly an expert on the Beatles timeline.
Mm-hmm. It looks like it might be from the early Beatles when they had their bowl haircuts, like 1964.
Yeah.
And then I included another article here, but this was actually news covered in another article, so we'll just skip past that one. And straight on to the interview with Russell T Davies. And Davies specifically says there will not be any specials for the 20th anniversary of Rose. And specifically, he says, ever since I came back to this job, people have been asking me if I'm going to do anything special for the 2025 season to celebrate the fact that it marks 20 years of New Who. But to be honest, no, sorry, I don't think that's wise. Even though it's a time travel show, I don't think it looks good to have a 100th, then a 60th, then a 20th. Let alone the fact that it'll be season 2 or series 15 within a 20-year span. Mind-boggling. Let's just look forward. I will say, given what he chose to do for the 60th and the criticisms it's gotten, I also think it's wise probably not to do another special that would probably be starring David Tennant. Let's be honest.
Overexposure.
I mean, it would probably be a different physical character. It would probably be the Metacrisis Doctor if they were to do a special. But yeah, I think it makes sense not to do a fourth David Tennant special. Because you know they're not doing a Chris Eccleston one. All right, moving on. Next, we have another article from Radio Times, and this is that director Ben Williams, who, well, earlier we had the list of who directed which episodes. He directed one episode, and he talks about his let's see, what was does it say what the question was? I think he was asked what fans have to look forward to, and he said, without letting any spoilers go, he thinks it's the holograms or the sequences in 0G or our days with 50 aliens. So definitely hyping up that episode. And for the sake of completeness, let me pull the list back up. So I think they mixed up two people's names because there's no Ben Williams on this list. But there's two Ben Chessels and two Dylan Holmes Williams. So, unless he's not actually the director. Oh, wait, never mind. This is a 2025 episode, so this is not part of the current season. They're doing interviews about the following season.
Hmm.
Okay. Seems a little odd, but sure. So, in season 2, we're going to have an episode that has holograms and zero-G sequences. So let's look forward to that. Next, we have. Okay, so a while ago, maybe a month, maybe less, we covered news from the BBC planning to use AI in promotional materials. And we talked about one, how tone deaf of a message that was, and discussed the pros and cons. Well, apparently they've gotten a lot of complaints about that tone deaf plan. They did do 2 promotional emails and mobile notifications using AI and approved by humans. But because of all the complaints, they're canceling that plan, or more likely, they're temporarily canceling it, and then when nobody's looking, bringing it back out without telling anybody.
Hmm. It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not
Thing is,
really a surprise that there are complaints.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And I feel like there's a lot of that stuff is automated now anyway. So you would think they would just like make it still like human driven, but just automated to how it rolls out.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
like
So
the
as long as
timing and such is always odd, but it's
yeah,
usually written by a human.
right, yeah. Yeah. Main issue is they just don't want to have to pay people.
And on that note, copywriting is not as easy as you might guess if you've never tried it. There is definitely, yeah, work that needs to be done.
Mm.
Oh, and apparently Matt's car died today.
Oh no. As if he hasn't had enough to worry about.
Right.
Oh jeez. Oh, that sounds awful.
Yeah.
Mm.
Gonna bond to that, but alrighty.
Oh my god, the
Yeah, that's not.
alternator.
Oh, yep, I just saw that. Oh,
Oh,
that's yeah.
that's not cheap. I know
No,
when
it's
the alternator
Mm.
died on Randy's van, they were saying it would take about $400 just to fix that.
Oh.
Hmm.
yeah, that's not great. And that is the end of regular episode cast and crew news. So we go to Alex for new releases, and I need to step to the restroom and grab a water real quick while they do that.
Yep. So, moving on to game-related things. BBC has launched a new Wonder Chase experience on Roblox. So probably just going to be reading directly from the the doctorwho's.net thing here because otherwise. But yeah, the 15th Doctor and Ruby Sunday featuring a brand new game, BBC Wonder Chase, which is launched on Roblox today. Doctor is one of the brands featured on the service, which include shows like Match of the Day, EastEnders, and The Next Step, as well as some of their most famous faces. You can play fun mini games, collect BBC iPlayer themed coins, learn interesting nature facts, complete your obstacle courses.
Mm-hmm.
Wonder Chase experience aims to reach younger people where they are and bring the BBC to them. Roblox is enormously popular with younger audiences and it's used by over 71 million people every day. Experience is free on Roblox and available on PC, mobile, PlayStation X, and Xbox. To find it, just go to Roblox and search BBC Wonder Chase.
Mm-hmm. Looks like there's
I mean, I
several
guess it makes sense.
yeah, like several sub games within it. I believe Roblox, you just make your own games and stuff. That was the whole point. It's
Yeah,
almost
pretty
like
much.
Something
Yeah.
like that.
a kid
Yeah.
centric was my brain just died. God damn it, Valve's thing. Gary's mod. Like a child centric Gary's mod almost.
Pretty much. Like, I've seen people recreate, like, or at least heard of people recreating, like, Nintendo games in it and stuff like that, effectively.
So, looks like the Doctor Who centric one is the Deep Space Zone.
Hmm. Okay, so yeah, seemingly it's even specifically, at least for the time being, inspired by the Christmas special that happened, given it mentions the goblins.
Mm.
But yeah, I guess it makes sense. I mean, the irony is that I don't think Doctor Who has been aimed at kids in quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
I would argue the entirety of New Who has been aimed at slightly older audiences. Not like entirely kids aren't allowed to watch it, but like very
It's
aimed at
intended
like
for
a
kids to watch
slightly
with their
older.
families.
Yeah. um yeah,
As
nothing
compared to
really.
Torchwood, which is intended for kids not to be in the room.
Yeah. So yeah, moving on from that to Big Finish news. We have some new releases. On the 26th of March was released the 12th Doctor Chronicles. You Only Die Twice, written by Georgia Cook, Ben Teds, and Flo Trethui. Hopefully I didn't butcher that name. Starring Jacob Dudman and Bhavnisha Palmer.
Is that the name of a James Bond movie?
You Only Live Twice, so
Okay.
it's a play on it. And on the 3rd of April, we saw the release of Dark Gallifrey Morbius Part 1, written by
No, we
Tim
have a bot in
Foley.
the chat. No botting in our chat.
Written by Tim Foley and starring Samuel West as Morbius. We've also, as far as Big Finish news goes, Big Finish have announced the death and life of River Song. Seemingly just generally a new River Song focused audio series, which will be debuting in August. And it will seemingly be a replacement for the Diary of River Song, which was finished up last year after 12 box sets.
It looks like this one is the version of River after she's been turned into a program in the library.
Ah.
Oh wow, that's actually kind of cool.
Okay, yeah, even there's a quote here from Alex Kingston says, "We've gone post library. We've done another episode in the past where I was within the database, which I loved and thought that's the only way you could go forward with River given her situation. So I was actually really surprised when this box set came my way, and that we are now so far advanced in the history of Earth that she's able to be brought out as data and put into a clone body. So very, very clever." So we're getting into that territory, apparently. Of putting a consciousness in a clone body. I mean,
It's kind of like the ultimate undeath for characters,
Yeah.
mm,
you know?
The
mm.
X-Men did it.
I
We're-
feel like I've heard that later Dune books did that.
Yep. Yep.
Star Wars Expanded Universe has effectively done it.
And now, and the reboot Star
And the
Wars
movies,
universe
yeah.
as well,
Mhm.
with the same character.
Mm. But yes, Life and Death of River Song Last Words is now up for pre-order exclusively from Big Finish. It's available as a collector's edition Ford CD box set or digital download. It's also available in a money-saving bundle with volumes 2 and 3 of the series,
And
which are both
once we're talking money, that's just an ad and
$222.
padding. Which brings us on to Geek Talk.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so we start off with Bad Batch. And I'll try to keep this one brief. Bad Batch Season 2, I would say, honestly, is only really for hardcore fans. Why do I say this? Basically, it follows off of the plot of Season 1, and it doesn't really cover new ground. What it covers is it's continuing to show how the Republic became the Empire. It's focused on the rise of the Stormtroopers and the fall of the Clone Troopers. And that is the most unique thing that happens. It follows the, at this point, repeated trope from the Clone Wars. Someone finds a conspiracy. They go to report it. They go through twists and turns with people trying to stop them from reporting it. And then when they go to report it, it all works out in Palpatine's favor because he predicted them reporting it. This happened multiple times in the Clone Wars. It's a repeated story, which doesn't necessarily make this a bad story, but it makes it unoriginal. It makes so unless you're really interested either A, in the members of the Bad Batch and you're really invested in them personally, or B, you're just really into Star Wars lore and you want to see how the Stormtroopers replace the Clone Troopers. Unless you're really invested in either of those things, there's nothing really new here. The way the narrative unfolds is just the way the Clone Wars has been unfolding for a long time now. So if you're iffy on this, I would skip it, but if you're invested in those things, then I would watch it. And I should be clear, this was season 2, that was last year's season, so season 3 is airing now. I have not watched that one yet, so we'll see if that's any different from season 2.
Yeah, I was getting caught up on season 1. I didn't realize that season 2 had just finished airing last year. I thought I was way far behind. It feels like season 1 like aired in like 2019 or something. It feels like it aired years ago.
I don't
think it's
think
that
so. It was
old now.
2021.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so there's a 2021 season, and then they took a year off, then a 23 season, and a 24 season.
Okay. The third one's supposed to be the last one, right?
I have no idea.
I think that's what I had heard.
I have not been watching trailers or following news because I was behind.
Oh, okay.
Wikipedia does say third and final season.
Mm-hmm.
I did see people sharing a trailer for something called Tales from the Empire. I don't know if it's actually a follow-up or if it just so happens to be the next thing coming out.
Apparently the director expected it to last only 3 seasons, so
Okay.
probably because they figured they probably wouldn't be able to milk it beyond that.
Yeah, I mean they're already repeating stories from like the Clone Wars animated series, right?
They're at least the story structure itself, yeah.
Yeah, and I guess I shouldn't really be surprised that they're milking that, given that Dave Filoni is like a higher up now in Lucasfilm when it comes to creative stuff. So he'd be like, I can exploit the stuff that I worked on now.
Yeah.
Which is why we have an Ahsoka show.
Well, and it's also Bad Batch. Like they had a backdoor pilot in the final released season of Clone Wars on Disney Plus.
Yeah, I mean, Bad Batch is
Yeah.
very much a continuation of the Clone Wars. The only thing is the war ended, so they had to focus on something else.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Maybe they should have focused on the first 2 seasons being during the Clone Wars at various points, and then the final season be what happened afterwards. But anything else?
That's it for that. So
Okay.
next is Kung Fu Panda 4.
Yay.
Yeah, which I will admit, this is a movie that years back when I saw the third movie, I was like, that's a good ending point. And then literally the same day I read that they were being like, we're gonna like some Dreamworks higher up, not any of the creative people were like, we're probably gonna do another trilogy at some point. And I'm like, no.
Letting a
Don't.
story rest while it's still good? Why would we do that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, it has been like almost a decade since 3, so there's at least been
Are
a
you-
sizable gap.
You can't be serious. Has it?
Yeah, it was like well pre-COVID.
How
I think it
old
was like
am I?
Too old.
uh but yeah, thankfully by the sounds of it from what I've heard, the idea is going forward any of these Kung Fu Panda movies are just basically going to be self-contained.
Okay.
So like I can
At this
basically
point, I would
say
almost expect them to be like, I've never watched a Kung Fu Panda movie, but I would kind of be like, oh, if there was a child sidekick in those movies, they should be the star now, not still the Kung Fu Panda.
I actually I'm surprised that there isn't, because spoiler alert, he does have like apprentices and stuff. He goes from being apprentice himself to being a master and teaching others.
Like effectively this movie has him kind of gain a sidekick, and the idea is that the basic plot, without going into like full blown like what happens later with it, is that he is tasked with finding a new dragon warrior so he can ascend to the spiritual leader role. That the God, I'm terrible. Master Oogway, so the turtle had prior. That he's the successor, so he's got to take on that role, and it's his anxieties of no, the Dragon Warrior is the only thing I'm good at. I don't want to elevate to that level of responsibility. And it's like him, like his journey with that. So it's a movie that I did not think should exist prior to seeing it, and after seeing it, I was like, you know what? Yeah, this justified its existence. It's kind of Toy Story 4 in a way, where it's like I didn't think that movie should have existed either, and then I saw it and I was like, you know what? Yeah, okay. This movie was good enough that it justified existing. Although, as I've joked to several people, this has less of a fuck you to the parent company vibe. Because Toy Story 4 feels very, oh yeah, we're going to write Woody out. I dare you to make a Toy Story 5. They're making one anyway, but still. But this was more, if there's no more after this, that could be it. But it's left open enough that if they really wanted to, there is, but it doesn't feel like, oh, there absolutely is going to be a sequel. And yeah, I think there have been like people from the creative end and also like different higher ups have been like, yeah, well, we're just taking it one at a time now. If we have an idea for another one, we'll do it. If not, eh. But yeah, I definitely say it's worth seeing. There are some jokes in it that are a bit but I basically chalk that up to this is a movie primarily for kids, so fair. But yeah, I think that's all I've got for that. So thankfully, I seemingly went under 5 minutes.
I will say that like
So-
Kung Fu Panda 2 is I actually really like that one. I actually cried a little bit during that one.
I've surprisingly enjoyed all of them so far. I've seen some people say 3 is a bit of a drop off, but honestly, I really like that one. In any case, moving on to Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire. This was another one where I was like, I don't know what I was worried about with this one. Like maybe I just wasn't as hyped. I don't know. But this was one that I went into and came out of being like, okay, yeah, this was actually pretty good. It's funny because I will say Bill Murray in this feels very he's here for a paycheck. He's barely in it as is, but it does feel very well, it's work. Rather than like Dan Aykroyd, you can tell is happy to be there. Is it Ernie Hudson?
Think so.
Sounds right.
Like, yeah, is happy to be there. Although he's probably just happy to actually have something to do, because Winston actually plays a pretty big role in this compared to previous, where he's just sort of there. And now he's like one of the it essentially is brought up in this that he's bankrolling the Ghostbusters.
Oh, cool.
So it's like, oh, okay. I forget if that ever. No, I don't think that did come up in the previous one because they're more of a cameo in Afterlife. But in this one, it's established that like he's. I forget exactly if they bring up how he got like rich. Like I don't think he's like billionaire rich by any stretch, but he's got a lot. He's got a decent amount of money to throw around. And all that, and yeah, like it works. It's still very much focused on the cast from Afterlife, but you know the others are there, like Dan Aykroyd's character's helping out, Winston's there, etc. But yeah, I will say it is kind of amazing how that one guy from the from the original movie is still the mayor of New York. That's kind of a miracle. That he would
Yeah.
still be mayoral this time. Like, well, I guess in the
Unless
interim,
this
maybe
is
he
set
lost
in
it
the
and got it
90s
back.
or something.
Oh no, this is definitely modern day. Like they're using like drones now to aid with ghost catching. Which is something that I hadn't really thought about before, but I'm like, oh yeah, with tech upgrade and how cheapish relatively those are getting, depending on the drone you're getting, I guess. That makes sense. And yeah, there is an element that I would discuss, but it's kind of spoilery, so I can't go into it. But yeah, in any case, I did really enjoy this one. I'd say it's worth seeing. Keep getting thrown off because there's some loud noises going on in the background. I will say the one thing that I especially liked about this one is that, like Kung Fu Panda 4, this was very self-contained. There is kind of a mid-credit scene, but it's more one of those like, you know how some MCU movies will have a post credits, but it's not like a things to come kind of post credit. It's just like a
Like
fun
a
little
joke
joke thing.
one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it was basically that. It was more of a jokey one rather than like, oh, we're setting up another movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would assume they're probably operating under the same thing, the same logic at this point, where it's like, uh, if this does well, we'll do another one, but if not, you know, we'll keep it self-contained just in case. Like it underperforms.
That's the way to do it.
Um,
I had heard that it was better
hmm.
than Afterlife, and I haven't seen Afterlife yet. So.
Well, that's the funny thing. The main thing that ticked me off about Afterlife that was an improvement here is that it felt like Afterlife ignored the existence of Ghostbusters 2, which mainly bugs me because I really like Ghostbusters 2.
Oh.
Um, so this one being very from like right out of the gate, they're like there is a mention of like the Statue of Liberty incident,
Mm-hmm.
like very early. So it's like okay, we are remembering that that other movie did happen.
Mm-hmm. I think there were
um,
issues with Ghostbusters too. Wasn't there? It didn't quite turn out to be the movie that they were hoping to make it be.
Uh, I think in some cases it was also just fan expectation of like the real Ghostbusters cartoon had happened in between,
Yeah.
and there was no continuity
Mic
between the
off.
cartoon and the second movie. So people were
Mm.
kind of pissy about that, um, to an extent, because they figured that it would like follow on from the TV show or something, but it didn't. Um, but yeah, like honestly, yeah, like I really like this. There probably are complaints some people can find, and I have only seen it the once, so maybe there would be stuff that I would like nitpick on a rewatch. I will say there
Mic
probably
on.
were, like with Kung Fu Panda 4, there probably were some jokes that didn't quite land for me, but you know, that was like here and there as opposed to like groaning at every joke throughout or anything like that. Yeah, I definitely say it's worth seeing when you have time.
All right. So it brings us to our episode summary. And I've got, where is it?
Thank
I've got my summary notes.
And surprisingly,
Oh,
even with all that news, they've only been going for like a little over an hour.
yep.
Hmm.
Yeah, if we were going much longer than that, I would have said maybe we should skip Geek Talk. So,
Mm.
all right, I'm ready for a countdown from the stopwatch.
Oh shit! I forgot to bring up a stopwatch. Oops. Hang on. Let me find one quick. Eh. Eh. Google, show me. Actually, God damn it. Google, Doctor Who stopwatch. Yep. Hate this. All right, whatever. Stopwatch.
Yeah, they're going to try to sell you a Doctor Who fob watch.
I know. Seriously. All right. Let's see here. Let me bring the stopwatch up on the screen. All right. Window capture. There we go. Okay. There. All right. All right. So, ready?
Yep.
Go.
All right, the episode starts off with Oswald Danes on TV calling for free drugs. Then we cut to Rex at Brian Friedkin's house, demanding who he's been working for. Friedkin doesn't know, but he gives Rex the phone they've been using to contact him. Rex then reconnects with the team, and as the team moves to their next location, Esther translates a bunch of US and UK phrases, mainly for Gwen and the audience's benefit. They then track some of what Friedkin has been doing and find that he was protecting a warehouse. They break into the warehouse and find out that it is for Phi Corp, who have been stockpiling drugs. Rex then tries to arrange a meeting with a contact of his in order to whistleblow on FICOR, but the meeting site is raided before he can actually have the meeting. This causes Rex to basically get frustrated and ditch the group. Meanwhile, back at the medical panel with Vera, they discuss the fact that stillbirths are being born alive with horrible birth defects. Jilly Kitzinger suggests drugs from FICOR, who have been dealing with infant pain management drugs before that. Then later that night, Rex meets up with Vera, asking for more medical care, which moves on to him blackmailing her because he's a dick. And then somehow that leads to them hooking up. And then he tries to convince her to spy on a FICOR meeting. She refuses, but then eventually agrees to help Rex get into the meeting himself. In the meantime, Jack goes to a club and hooks up with the bartender. Afterward, he calls Gwen to talk about how all they need is each other, but Gwen drops the call without even saying bye when Esther sets up a video call with Reese and the baby. Both Gwen and Oswald Danes wind up going to the FICOR meeting instead of Rex. Gwen hacks Jilly's computer to figure out what's going on, and Oswald comes to an agreement with FICOR for protection in exchange for pushing their agenda on TV. Jack tracks down Oswald, trying to figure out his true motives, and just ends up getting roughed up by this protection for his efforts. And finally, the hidden enemy calls Rex on that cell phone that he took from Friedkin. They don't say anything, but they track Torchwood to their new base and force them to abandon it. End of the episode.
All right, that was 3 minutes and 4 seconds.
All right, so we move on to our episode review and the pecking order. So what do we like about the episode, starting with Alex?
Oh God, I feel like I had something. I guess given that it's more of an overarching thing rather than individual scene, that there is kind of an arc towards pushing Oswald towards FICOR. Whereas like I think it was like the first episode, he's like, yeah, nah, thanks, I'm good. And then this he like realizes, oh yeah, I do kind of need protection because I am a convicted pedophile who people are going to want to beat the living shit out of because they can't kill me. So screw it, yeah, I'll just join up with this, like, possibly mega core, depending on given how large they seem to be.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice that there's like an actual through line for that plot thread that seems to have been ongoing. I guess arguably you could say that end of the plot line has already been resolved too, which is kind of nice that we've gotten that out of the way in episode 3 of 10.
Yeah, it's good. I know it's been mentioned the past few podcasts that he's been showing up, but we don't see where he's going. In this episode, there's a very clear arc, and it's even start and end of the episode. He starts the episode calling for free drugs. He ends the episode after meeting with FICOR. Well, I'm not saying drugs should be free, but people should be allowed to pay for them.
Yeah. Access to purchase.
Because we know that everybody can afford to purchase high demand things, right?
Yeah.
All right. What do we like, Aaron?
All right. Overall, I liked some of the world building, such as the Solus turning up, the build of Oswald's cult, that type of deal. Just kind of like, okay, it the world still feels a little bit flat, like, oh, this is just modern day city. We're on the East Coast now, we're on the West Coast now, and we'll see in later episodes, but like, yeah, I
Hey,
like that
West
they,
Coast is next episode.
yeah, it's just like, this is America. This is, random places in America. Only, I don't know, I think a lot of it looks like it was shot in Canada, kind of.
A lot of stuff with U.S. cities is shot in Canada. I think it's just typically cheaper to film on location there.
Yeah, was it Vancouver or
Hmm.
something like that?
Like I think a lot of movies that are set in Manhattan are filmed in Toronto.
Ah, jeez. Yeah, it's got that kind of. I realize it now, but it doesn't quite have like an identity of where they're at. It's just a random place, and it would have struck home a lot harder if it had a definite like city that they were in.
I mean, they're supposed to be in D.C. right
Oh
now,
yeah, that's right. They're supposed to be in the DC. It
but I
doesn't.
don't think there's any D.C. landmarks that they
Yeah.
actually like are present. Like nowadays, they would film on a green screen, and
Mhm.
you would just see them like walking past like the Capitol building or something. But
Well, now they don't even use screen anymore. Now they use Disney's been using the
I was
volume.
gonna say Disney's been using projectors. I don't think the BBC is quite that advanced.
Mhm. Giant LCD screens right behind them. But yeah, like it just, the world felt lifeless despite the fact that all this stuff was going on. I don't know. Yeah. I guess I liked the little bit of world building we got.
Okay.
Mhm.
Um. So that brings it to me, and I guess I like that there's progress toward knowing who to fight. Like I mean, there's there's definitely good story bits you can get out of the beginning of a story where you don't know who the bad guy is, and there's just threats on all sides. But I like that here we have progress. We have, okay, FICORP may or may not be the big bad, but they're definitely like one of the big bads. And they are definitely a lead that can be followed, which means that a story can be told. I'm pretty sure the story goes off the rails after this, but at this stage, they're a very, concrete, believable, but also powerful threat. That is, it's a good place for such a threat to be.
Hmm.
And yeah, this came out before the opioid crisis was a recognized thing.
Mhm.
I'm I'm not sure if how that would have changed things. I mean, obviously they knew that painkillers were addictive, but that doesn't seem to be on anybody's mind in Miracle Day.
No,
Whereas
no.
that would have been the first thing they would have mentioned if this came out today.
Yeah.
You know exactly who's behind this.
Hmm.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
It's Purdue Pharmaceutical.
They make
All right.
those.
uh,
What do we dislike about the episode?
hmm. I will quickly add, I just looked it up. Apparently, all of the filming abroad was done in the US, but it was all done in LA. So a bunch of the
Gotcha.
hard to
Hmm.
place might have just been studio work, or
Okay.
just nondescript parts of LA they could
Which,
pass for wherever they needed.
which explains why they get to LA so quickly. They're like,
Mm.
okay, we need to actually get to the city we're filming in.
Mm. Um, yeah, I'm gonna go with for like least favorite overall. This was filmed in like what 2010 most
Around
likely,
that, yeah. I think it came out in
and
2011.
like I could almost arguably make this scene, but it happens so much throughout this episode. I'm like, how are they able to sneak around so easily? And like they get into they get into the Ficor owned building, and they get into the businessy building instead of the warehouse. And I'm thinking, this is 2010. Not only is this post 9/11, but this is also just generally more modern day. There are security cameras everywhere in both of those buildings. You will not convince me otherwise. How are they sneaking around without getting noticed at all?
I do think the fact that there were no cameras, no alarm. Like, I mean, maybe they did
Yeah.
alert somebody. It's possible they got
Mm.
noticed. That's probably the one saving grace on that for me. It's possible that whoever's on the other end of that cell phone knows everything they've been doing up to this point,
Right.
and we just don't know everything they know.
Yeah, I mean, like, there is a bit of leeway with the warehouse because Gwen's like, oh, if I do this, then it's going to turn all the lights on and that, and they're going to know. But also at the same time, there'd be guards there. There'd be more than one person that they had to get past. There'd be people walking around patrolling that building, especially a company that big. Yeah, no, there's
I,
going to be security roaming that
I
thing.
I would say, and I've never worked for a company with a warehouse filled with billions of dollars of product.
Mm,
But at least, having worked for a $1 million company, there at the very least was probably somebody off site watching the security cameras who's like,
yeah,
those people shouldn't be there and they're carrying guns. Let me call the
yeah,
boss.
Yeah.
And that boss
yeah.
might be the person who called Rex at the end of the episode. We don't know yet.
Right. Like it wouldn't have even necessarily had to have been like, hundreds of security people or anything by that. No, a company that big isn't going to pay that many people. But at least like a handful
I know our
roaming
security
around.
guards sit in a office at the main entrance, and I think one of them sits over at a side entrance and stuff. And there's like
Is
turnstiles and
that
stuff
true
you have to get
overnight?
through.
Is that true overnight when there's no employees there?
Yes,
Okay.
we have 24-hour security, but we're $1 billion international company that makes medical equipment.
So
That's
you're much,
also.
yeah. So not too far off from a
Mhm.
$1 billion uh, pharmaceutical company.
Yeah, and our
Mm.
medical equipment will sell for about 100 grand per piece.
So yeah, so there we go. We have firsthand experience. Do you know if the same thing was true 15 years ago?
I'm not quite sure. I know they are pretty much underpaid. They're paid like $15 an hour. They're not given guns, so they're basically paid to sit there and be shot first when the person comes through to rob the place. For a while
Mm.
there, we weren't even locking our doors, so anyone could sneak in and steal equipment. In fact, there were some people whose car had broken down, and they actually got into the facility and were asking for directions to go get help, and just randomly walking around.
Wow.
That was before we actually put security measures in, so you can't do that anymore, fortunately. But
So we
yeah.
have both sides of the coin here.
Mm.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
All right, Aaron, what do you dislike? What do you dislike about this
I
episode?
had so many things. I don't like Miracle Day, and now I'm thinking about it. I think I did slightly like it better than Children of Earth. But I didn't like it that much better. Oh God. Um.
Remember, we're not going any later than this episode yet.
um. Hmm. I think one of the most egregious things that happen is that the action is just paralyzed when Rex abandons the team or walks away. Like no one.
Rex abandons the team, and Jack is like, "Well, I guess it's time to get laid."
Yeah, I guess I'm going to the bar now and hit on people. And Esther and Gwen are just walking around on the wet pavement and stuff, philosophizing. Just like Esther, you guys don't have any research to do. You don't have anything to do except for just wax poetic.
By the time Jack and Rex got back, that Esther and Gwen were back to work, but Gwen had to talk Esther down from her crisis and not quit first.
Yeah, it's just like we've already had one member quit. Ish, kinda. Yeah, it was just
actually talking about that. It's this episode. It kind of really makes it even less clear what Rex and Esther's relationship was, because I thought they were colleagues, but now we find Esther's job is basically like she's like an what we would think is like an is it NSA that I'm thinking of? That's mainly known for
spying on. They're like the tech people, and the CIA
yeah,
are like the classic spy action.
Yeah,
people.
so she's not even doing CIA stuff. She's doing like NSA stuff. And Rex is a field agent who seems to have no respect for her. So like what exactly was their relationship before this?
Yeah, I don't. It's almost the way that Rex was talking about getting a promotion and stuff. It sounds like he may have started out in a position like her and then moved on to field agent and is basically bragging to her about how he's getting a so maybe they're former colleagues and stuff, and he just kind of moved to a different position.
And either he doesn't know what she does, or he just doesn't care,
or he looks down on it like it's something that he did before but isn't for him, and it's lazy or not really
I just need
worth
to
it.
start thinking of Rex as Sterling Archer, and that'll answer all my questions.
It would be a lot more funny and a lot more enjoyable if he were. We just need to get John Benjamin in. Come on, you can do it.
Dub over all of Rex's lines. Anything else about that, Aaron?
No, it just seemed like, what the hell is going on? Just because Rex isn't around, you guys aren't working. Get to work. Do something. It was just kind of bizarre. Maybe they could go off and have a confrontation with Oswald or something. Maybe Esther could have a confrontation with him. You know, almost kind of like how Sandwich Girl had a confrontation with him, only, have a purpose. Yeah, but that's it for me.
Okay. So what's left that's not taken? I guess I'm gonna say the whole Phi Corp meeting seems a little contrived. Like it seems like it's set up so that there's a place where like Oswald, Vera, Jilly, Gwen are all at the same place. Because it's like, if you're having this secret meeting with like this high profile let loose on a technicality criminal, that you want him to like subtly support your brand but without publicly doing it, why are you like very obviously having him present at like your big meeting that you're inviting all the doctors to?
And it's basically just a PR stunt, so why are they trying to be subtle about it anyway? I mean, like, you've got a convicted child murderer who
so the point is that like they want Oswald's perspective, because Oswald has, he's I don't want to compare another character to Trump, but I will to a slight extent. Not, he's not a Trump figure, but he's this character who, despite being associated with terrible things, has developed a following based on like him being like the flavor of the moment. And because of that, what he says is getting a lot of attention, regardless of how informed it is or isn't.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want him, they want to bank off of that. They don't want him to say, thank you for the sponsor of this video, Corp, who wants us to, help them make money for pharmaceuticals. That's not what they want. They want a grass, or what do they call it? AstroTurfing, when it's a fake grassroots campaign. They want an AstroTurf campaign of all of Oswald's weird followers to be like, yeah, we should be allowed to pay money for drugs. And, for those people to be calling their senators and whatever. So that part requires some subtlety. Because if he just comes out and says, yeah, Corp just paid me a load of money and I agree with what they say, that's not going to have the same effect as if they think it's his opinion.
Yeah.
But given all of that, given the fact that they're trying to be subtle and secretive about it, the fact that they're just parading him around their big meeting that they invited apparently hundreds of doctors and other people to, like probably, people working at pharmacies and like politicians and lobbyists and whoever else is in that big room filled with people. And any of them can just notice them, bringing around, this high profile figure doesn't seem to, it seems like it's just contrived for the sake of, well, we need Oswald to be in the same place as the Torchwood characters. Also, I'm not sure where he flew out from, unless Jilly is in multiple places at once. Because if they're already in DC, and that means that Vera should also be in DC, and Vera and Jilly are going to the same meeting every day. So where is Jilly going that she's flying Oswald out back to where she already was?
I mean, to be fair, she works for a billion-dollar company. She could just be getting private flights.
I think she's just getting flights multiple. But would that apply to Vera too? Because Vera was at that, was at the panel, and then she was at home to sleep with Rex. Like, I don't think she's getting private flights every day.
Right.
I think this might be a symptom of being written by a being written by somebody who probably lives in a country the size of Michigan. But yeah.
Yeah, because doesn't Esther say oh, my apartment's just over there, it's down the highway, and then was it a couple blocks over this way or something like that, or just jump on the A train or something like that, and it's just okay.
I will say the funny thing is, the woman who wrote this particular episode is from the US.
Okay, so what I just said is wrong. It's not from. It's not a symptom of being from a tiny country.
I mean, that being said, it is still RTD show running it effectively, and probably doing either all of or some of the script editing. So who knows? It's probably just a matter of just someone's not keeping track of the geography.
I guess if they had literally just not included that one line about getting on a flight to Dulles, then it probably wouldn't even be an issue. We could just assume they're all within driving distance of the CIA base in DC, of which I'm sure there are plenty. But Yeah, adding that line makes the whole thing weird.
Mm.
All right, favorite scenes.
Hmm. I feel like there's a couple, but I'm going to go for the bit where, oh my god, blanking on names now. That's it, Esther. Esther and Gwen are like tricking the security guard. And it's like, oh,
Oh.
just tourists abroad. We're looking for this particular street. Is it this? Is this whack? Like, oh, you've done this before. Oh, you don't know. Yeah. It's like, oh, so many times. It's like it's the funny thing is I don't even think she's done that on the show before, so it's just like a general thing, but it's still very funny.
I just like the fact that it works perfectly. Like she's able to knock him out just
Yeah.
hard enough, and because you gotta like
Mm,
bang someone's head across a hood pretty
mm,
hard in order to actually
yeah.
knock them out.
Mm,
Dramatic effect.
yeah.
I just got back.
Yeah.
Are you talking about Gwen's left hook?
Oh,
When she pulls the dude by the tie and smacks him into the
Oh,
car.
is that what she did? I thought she punched him.
No, she's waiting for him to like lean in enough that she can grab his tie and yank him
Oh,
towards the
gotcha.
car.
Yeah.
And I guess really, if you bang him hard enough against the car, then if that doesn't knock him out, falling backwards onto the concrete probably will.
If he hits the back of his head in the process.
Hmm. Which I think he did fall backwards, so.
And I think Eve Miles was really good. I think her acting has been really good in this show, just like it was in the original Torchwood. So it really kind of made the scene all the more enjoyable when she just kind of leans back with that look on her face.
Hmm.
You look like you've done that before. So many
Yeah.
times.
Yeah. Uh, so yeah, Aaron's turn.
I'm going to say the fizzy lemonade scene. In that where basically it's actually probably a couple of scenes where again Gwen and Esther have pretty good chemistry. And they are just going back and forth between the differences between the US terminology and British terminology. So
Yeah, in my memory, that was like the entire contents of like most of an episode. But then rewatching it, I'm like, no, there was this like 2 scenes in episode 3. But of course, when I first watched this back in like 2012, 2013, like I was learning most of this for the first time. I was just like, oh, they call, they use pants to refer to something else in England. Well, Wales.
Yeah, because it's like
it'd be
chips and
English,
crisps.
England in general.
But Gwen is not from England, so
UK in general, I
yeah.
guess.
Yeah, like crisps and chips. Something else they mentioned too. Petrol and gasoline, or the gas station.
And apparently, I guess in at least either Wales or in the UK in general, apparently they call an ATM a cash point.
Yeah,
Which
that was actually
that I
new
was
to me.
unaware of
Yeah.
because even in Australia it's just an ATM, so clearly that didn't carry over.
Yeah, and I've gotten to the point where like when things in Australia are called normal words, I'm surprised because I'm expecting you to be like, oh yeah, it's an Addy or something.
It's a boat trunk here.
I mean, we have like 3 different. There's like a different nickname in the UK to here to the US for what to call McDonald's. So
Mhm.
Mm, yeah, but that was mine because again, it's kind of it's girl power vibes, but I think they just generally like what she's Esther is basically an analog for Gwen. You know, it's kind of like she reminded me of young naive Gwen when she
Yeah, almost
first
like
joins
season 1
Torchwood.
Gwen,
Yeah,
right?
season
Like
1.
Mm,
back when Gwen had
yeah.
never shot a gun before.
Mhm.
Mm.
Which, I mean, I guess that's kind of like, if you look at this as season 1 of Stars Torchwood, that's the character she's supposed to be.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, so it was fun. It was fun in a bleak ride.
Do I have a favorite scene?
Mhm.
I've been sitting here thinking about if I have a favorite scene or not. Uh, I don't think I really do. Like, any scene that comes to mind, I immediately come up with a criticism of it. Um, and I'm not sure any of them really stand out as a favorite, except maybe like what Aaron was just talking about. Um, yeah, I mean, I feel like I've probably been thinking about it enough that I probably am going to pass for favorite scene. I'm just not really thinking of anything that is a favorite. It's not. I mean, yeah, it's not an episode that's written in such a way that I'm like, I really like many scenes.
Yeah, that's fair.
Least favorite scenes, and I know I have one for that.
um, it was sort of brought up before, but I'm gonna just go over it as a specific scene. Jack just kind of randomly abandoning the other 2 to go to a gay bar. Like, this just feels so like, what? If this was like they had no clue what was going on and they were still trying to figure out what to do,
Mhm.
and it was just like stress building up, okay, fuck it, I need to go
It's,
blow off some steam, I
it
could
almost
maybe
it
get it.
almost comes off like RTD was just like, hey, have we reminded the audience that Jack is queer yet?
Yeah.
um but yeah, it's just like, I don't
And
know.
actually, yeah,
It's just
it was just so there's just after the scene where he's like, well, we can't turn for help. We need to go after Phi Corp ourselves.
yeah.
Rex is like, screw you guys. I'm going home. And then
Yeah.
next thing you know, Jack is just like, okay, we have this mission. We have no allies. It's just the 3 of us on this important mission. I'm gonna get some dick.
Yeah.
What?
For what
Yeah.
it's worth, though, Jack and the bartender, I don't even remember the bartender's name, had more chemistry than Rex and Juarez did.
Hey, don't take from my scene.
um yeah, it's just such a weird, like, again, if this was like, I don't know, if this was like midway through the story and they just had a big defeat and they're trying to regroup and everyone's becoming disillusioned, then I could maybe get it. Or again, if this was just like they have no clue what's going on yet and they're just wandering around aimlessly, I could see Jack getting distracted by a gay bar. But it's just, I don't know.
Or even if it
Otherwise,
was just like a little bit later, everyone's getting sleepy, and Jack is like, I'm wired, because he's like, he's feeling different to normal because
yeah.
he's feeling more mortal than he usually is, and he's like, "Well, I'm wired. The city is all awake, and there's everybody drinking. I'm just, nobody else is doing work anyway. I'm just gonna go out and hit the town and see what happens." Would kind of
Yeah.
make sense, but not like in the middle of that.
Yeah. Because, like, especially given that he's usually the one, especially in previous Torchwood stories, he's usually the one dragging everyone else along, even if they don't want to, or they're not particularly motivated. He's usually the one being like, no, no, we got to do this. Fuck you. So it's weird that he's the one being, yeah, I don't know. Like, there are so many other contexts where this could have worked, but in the specific way it was executed, it just doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. That was Alex's scene, right?
Okay.
Right.
So, speaking of sex, no, just kidding. I'm going to say Jack's confrontation with Oswald, which is very weird for me. Like, it feels like Jack is panicking, he's naive. Oswald, it feels like Oswald is he's taking a dive for Oswald, for the Oswald character. It's just like his smooth, cool confidence is so shaken by Oswald of all people. He's like sitting there fumbling for his gun. He's like stuttering at him. He's like, and like asking him, "You don't really care about that girl." Well, we obviously know that he didn't care about the girl. We obviously know that he didn't. That he's faking it. Like, it just felt like it felt so off and cheesy, and then Oswald's just like he's the one who's all confident and evil and strategic and stuff, when he was kind of a bumbling buffoon before. It honestly is what I thought, that he's an evil person obviously, but like he doesn't seem like someone who's capable of murdering children like that. So, and then all of a sudden he's like this evil mastermind who's working with this corporation now and taking over the world. And I guess that it's supposed to show that Jack, how depowered and how little Jack has become because he's lost his
How like
immortality.
Jack? Well, Jack is like shaken. Yeah, I mean, and yeah, it's like I think it's supposed to be partially like he's shaken at like the loss of Yanto, the loss of Toph and everybody.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. I figured that he would, maybe be a little bit nervous, or maybe he'd start out a lot more confident and stuff, and then Oswald would really hand him a banger and just be like, this is, I have the upper hand the whole time, and then Jack would feel shaken. It didn't seem to really line up, and it didn't seem to really work all that well. It was supposed to be this big confrontation between the hero, which probably should have also been there with Rex too, because like Rex is basically Jack's analog for like quote unquote American Torchwood, or the American Torchwood show that never took off. Like maybe if Rex were there, because he could have also been like the smooth and the confident one, with Jack being a little nervous, like, hey, just remember I'm mortal here. So if he pulls a gun
It would
on
have been
me,
interesting because, like, if you look at like especially like season 1 and 2, Jack definitely would have been the one like, oh yeah, we're going to interview you. Why don't you take a seat? And then Rex would have been the one pulling out the gun and being the stereotypical American in the scene.
Yeah, like I'm actually surprised that. Oh yeah, well, I'm surprised that Oswald wasn't armed, and that, or like he wouldn't even have to pull out a gun on like Jack. He would just been like, oh, you've got a gun, I have a gun too. But I don't know. Like it just didn't work for me. It didn't. It felt like Jack came off as kind of a himself bumbling and naive and stuttering and cowering, where it was a little too much. And
It's really weird in that, like, so it's kind of following up on two different micro plots. Like, you had seen the scene before where Jack was watching Oswald on TV, and he's like, I guess he's supposed to be like, oh well, he's like reading his like facial expressions and figuring out like if he's telling the truth or lying and whatever. But part of that is just like he seems to have become like obsessed with like Oswald is something important without anyone else really believing that. But it also seems to be following up on the whole like the phone call to Gwen when he's you're kind of seeing his vulnerabilities and like
mm-hmm.
he's like kind of breaking apart at the seams.
Yeah.
But like him being like super good at reading people and coming apart at the seams don't really fit well together. They're kind of opposite directions being pulled at once.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All right, on to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So I'm going to say, yeah, my least favorite scene is Rex shows up at his doctor's house, demands that she dress his wounds. No, please, thank you. Just, I need you to do this. Then he threatens to blackmail her, and suddenly they are having sex. And there's a very slight thing to, yes, like they're both stressed out and they need like that momentary relief. But I refuse to believe that unless there's some sort of like prior relationship that we know nothing about,
Mm-hmm.
that there's anything for Vera in this moment other than a dangerous man showed up, demanded I do things, and threatened to blackmail me. That's not sexy. Like,
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the writer has, been reading too many, like, either watching too much porn or reading too many romance novels or what, but like that, I almost get like Rex, like being in the relative position of power and having like no concern for other people. I can kind of see how he might find the situation sexy, but I don't see like, and I can understand how Vera might like need to get laid, but that she would want to do anything with Rex in that particular moment just seems like complete nonsense.
Yeah, like given how strong a character she's been up to this point,
Mm-hmm.
this makes no sense. Additionally, a point that I forget if I thought about it the first time around, but on the second or third watch, definitely the second watch, I was like, he was like barely conscious before. How is he getting up?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how is he even able to perform?
Oh, the
Like,
painkillers.
The magic of painkillers.
He mentioned, and of course, the painkillers that are they're as powerful as an opioid, but have no narcotic, no
Hmm.
drowsiness effects because obviously those kind of painkillers are
Hmm.
commonplace and easy to make.
Yeah.
That's
Let alone
possible.
at the very least, even then, he's like he was on the verge of unconsciousness. He shouldn't have the energy to do that.
I just realized something.
Like,
I thought Vera was his ex, in which case it would have made kind of a little bit more sense that he would show up at her place and everything. It's actually Lynn Peterfield, the CIA agent,
yeah,
that is his
Yeah,
ex.
yeah.
Which
yeah,
makes me wonder if originally they were supposed to be the same character.
Maybe.
maybe, or just generally that Vera was supposed to be the ex, and then they changed it for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that whole thing makes a lot more sense if they had some sort of relationship other than patient doctor beforehand.
Yeah, or like if this wasn't episode, like if they didn't have sex in episode 3 and they had sex like way later, or something, but they've actually had time to
Yeah, if
build
they
up
actually
some
worked
sort of a
together, like
relationship.
I saw it in a summary when I was just like skimming through looking. I think I was looking for character names or something. Um, and I was like, oh well, I mean, maybe if they hook up after they've been like working together undercover for a few episodes, like that makes sense, right? You develop a bond, and But they no, she's been, he's been calling her and making demands for things. And she's been like, like, oh well, I'm a dutiful doctor, so I'm going to, do what I can. But like, they definitely haven't developed any sort of bonds or chemistry that can be seen on screen.
That's right. I just assumed that they were exes. I didn't realize that they
Mm,
weren't. They hadn't had really a relationship other than doctor patient.
yeah, and even then, not exactly an entirely very friendly one either. Because like
Right.
when she shows up in the airport in like what episode 2, like he's like, "Oh, thanks for the drugs. See ya." Like,
Right.
It's my favoriteest thing in
he
the
probably didn't
world.
even say
Drugs.
thank you. He probably just grabbed
He's
them and just
he's
go.
he's like, if you give me drugs, I'm going to let you examine Jack. And then he shows
Yeah.
up. All right. Yeah, these are the drugs. All right, bye.
Yeah.
All right, on to final thoughts.
Yeah.
Alex.
You know, it's funny. When Bill made the Trump comparison to with Oswald earlier, I'd never really thought about that before, but it honestly would not shock me if that's what Bill Pullman was using as inspiration for his performance. Because suddenly a lot of things click. I mean, like,
Really?
Trump has not been accused of that specific thing, but that's a very Trumpy
Uh,
performance.
maybe not
Like,
the murder part. He's definitely had, known for like, oh, there's like a teenage beauty pageant being held while Trump is just
ah,
going to walk into the fucking locker room because he has
mm,
the right to, as the sponsor.
ah,
So I didn't mean to
well, there you
derail you,
go.
but yeah, it's
But yeah, but like, yeah, it just suddenly hit that, like, oh, suddenly a lot of his acting choices make a lot more sense. He's basically Trump without all the money. Um, but yeah, like the way he's like always has his mouth a particular way and all that, the way his eyes are always basically squinting is like, oh, yeah, now that suddenly makes a lot of sense. He was Pullman basically going, who's the skeeviest rich person I know? But yeah, I do feel like while I enjoyed the first two, uh, despite whatever flaws they did have, this is like a weaker episode. This is like a lot of, again, like the whole the oh wow, I'm already blanking on names again. The Rex Vera thing feels incredibly forced. The apparent lack of security cameras anywhere, or security personnel really, aside from like one guy at the warehouse apparently. Um, which again, am I expecting them to, have well-paid armies of security? No, I'm expecting them to have underpaid, like tens of. But like, it just, there's a lot of issues there. I mean, I guess I'm glad that we've got the FICOR thing going now. And also that they don't play Kitzinger being with them is not played as like some big reveal. She just kind of offhandedly mentions that she works for FICOR.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think that had come up prior. She's just always nebulously talking about the company she represents, and now they've been name dropped, so she can finally name them. But it's not like this big dun 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 reveal. She just kind of offhandedly says it, so that's nice.
Yeah.
I am still wondering what the hell the deal with her is, because I half expect that she's going to turn out to be like a fucking alien or something. Which is some shit. I figure like something's going to be up with her more than just what there is currently. Considering how like as it's been brought up, there's a bit of a geography wonkiness, so it's like, does she just have a like teleportation tech to get around this quick? Like, what are we doing? But yeah, I mean, I guess aside from flying Oswald to, is Dulles an actual place, or just is she just saying Dallas wrong?
It's a I looked it up, and it's a place in Virginia. So that's where I'm thinking that's the airport that they flew to get to DC or something like that.
Because yeah, I was just like, it just sounded like she was saying Dulles wrong. Because being from Australia, I don't know a shitload about U.S. geography, so
I wasn't familiar with it, but it was like I was like, oh, that sounds like it might be like, I don't know, the name of a town in Montana or something. But no, it turns out it's in Virginia. I think it said, let me look it up again and see the exact results I saw. And of course, oh yeah, so Dulles International Airport is an international airport in Loudoun County and Fairfax County in northern Virginia. And for those who aren't familiar with U.S. geography, Washington, D.C. is right to the northeast of Virginia. So you would expect them to be fairly, probably within driving distance of one another.
Yeah, as is the case with a lot of Doctor Who stuff, even if like the story's getting a bit wonky, the acting still holds up. I don't really remember being iffy about anyone's acting. It's basically just been the writing and some of the CG looking and some of the green screen work being quite obvious, which in some cases it's like, yeah, it's a news show, whatever. But it's also like, cool, that is a glaringly obvious green screen. Even for a news program. Like, if it was like local news, fair enough, but it's like, that looks a bit less well integrated than it could be. So definitely a thing of like, this is I guess all the money went towards all the actors and stuff and some of the locations. Although I guess they're filming in mostly Wales and LA, so the LA filming probably wouldn't have been cheap, so yeah. But yeah, not as good as the other two, not like outright terrible, but yeah. Hoping that it picks up again rather than just we're on a all downhill from here trajectory. But that's
All
it for
right,
me.
Aaron.
Yeah, I just felt this episode was a lot of wasted time, honestly. A lot of like time killing dialogues, a lot of pointless confrontations. And it also had me wondering, like, do they really need Rex? I don't know exactly what he does. Does he do stuff that that Esther can't do? I mean, she's kind of naive. She doesn't really hold gun. She doesn't really do a lot of gun stuff. But I'm assuming if you're working for the NSA or the CIA, you had to have gone through some basic training, and you have to be at the firing range for at least once a week. I would assume
It's
like an hour.
he has more of the field agent mentality and abilities, but he doesn't do anything that Jack doesn't do.
Like, there's one image of him when they're in the like he's wearing kind of the same shirt and the same color coat as Jack. It's just Jack's is more obviously from World War II era. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just I don't know if he has a purpose. But At least not just yet. I guess he's supposed to be the heart of the team, but he's the base of the
Mm.
band.
Yeah,
Mm.
I guess the idea with him is like that he's generally just supposed to be like the one he's there to butt heads with everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's kind of the hothead, tough guy that they need.
Mm.
Like, he's the muscle, basically.
Yeah.
You know? Jack's the muscle too, but like, Rex is the muscle, plus he has a gun or something. I don't know. But anyway, I
Mm.
also kind of wish that they had built up the soulless a little bit more. You know, kind of maybe show
Yeah.
people handing out masks, or like showing the masks in like the shop windows around town, you
Mm.
know, or like on the shelves in stores or something like that. And you'd be like, well, what's going on with these masks? And then all of a sudden you see people showing up, you know, like a little bit in the alleyways and whatnot stuff, but you can't really tell what they're doing, or you can't really tell what they're wearing and that. And then they finally reveal themselves walking down the street. That there could have been more of a build up for the soulless, is what I'm saying. Instead of this, these,
Yeah.
oh, there's weird people walking around. Is it Halloween? You Americans are crazy.
I mean,
Mm.
we got that scene of, did you touch him? Did you touch
Yeah.
him?
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Anything else?
No, I think that's everything for me. The episode was kind of a big nothing burger, except we got to see naked booty.
All right. Yeah, this episode, I feel like the writing kind of collapsed a bit on this. I mean, what really symbolizes this episode for me is there's a scene where Oswald sneaks out a window to go downstairs so that people can chase him, so that he can turn to the police, so the police can beat his ass. It's a
Yeah.
Rube Goldberg machine of contrivances so that we can hit specific plot points that advance the plot. But that if you look at them, as anything other than building up to plot points, it just becomes a whole lot of, this does not make any sense why this character is acting in this particular way at this particular moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of fits in with what I was saying about the Phi Corp meeting, and why would they be parading Oswald around instead of moving through the staff corridors or something? And I think there was something Aaron mentioned, or that Alex mentioned, one of you, about that was kind of something similar. Oh yeah, about how Jack was behaving.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
It's a lot of things that are just, okay, this is what we need to hit a specific plot point, but it's not really behaving in line with what we would expect from the character.
Or with character
Mm.
points too. Like, oh, we need to remember that Gwen is, British and isn't American, other than, despite the fact she's got an accent. We got to remember that, Jack is, gay. We have to remember that, Gwen has a child and a husband.
Mm.
Mm.
Did we mention that Rex was a jerk this past 5 minutes? No?
That's it. I do wonder how much was like they showed the first two episodes to test audiences, and the audiences were just like, I don't understand any of those UKanese words coming out of Gwen's mouth. All right, on to ratings.
Hmm.
Alex. And by the way, I think we have ratings of the first two episodes from Matt, but since he's not here, it doesn't make sense to just read his thoughts out from episodes that we're not reviewing. So, yeah.
Yeah, he needs to make the effort to show up, even if he has to push his car here.
Wow.
Hmm. Well, I know I'm going to go lower than the previous 2 ratings I've given, but I'm trying to gauge how much. You know what? At least for right now, I might give this a flat 3.
3.0. Aaron.
I'm gonna go ahead just because it's subpar compared to the other ones we've seen. And I think the other ones I've given 3 to them, so I'm going to give this a 2.5.
2.5. So my first instinct was to give this a 2.0 based on the writing. I'm going to bump it up to a 2.5 because, as Aaron meant, I think it was Aaron that mentioned, the actors have been fine. There's been no complaints, and there's been good acting. So I'll bump up from a 2.0 to a 2.5. And this has been the closest we've been in agreement so far on any of these Miracle Day episodes. 2.67 average, which places this out of 465 things reviewed. What did I say? 2.68, 2.67. Places. Oh, that's the only 2.67. So it is not equally on par with anything. It is better than Canine Fear itself, Canine Dream Eaters, and Torchwood Day 1. And it is not as good as Torchwood Greeks Bearing Gifts, Canine Curse of Anubis, Torchwood Combat, and Torchwood Something Borrowed. It is, I guess I didn't say, so it would be number 422. So pretty close to the seller there. Which, yeah, we don't dip below a 3.0 very often.
Although it's notable that there's a decent amount of Torchwood around there.
All right, and that's all we have to say about Dead of Night. Let us know in the comments what you thought of this week's episode if you've watched it. Don't forget to like the video if you've listened this far. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube if you want to get our exports every week, or follow us on Twitch to get notified when we stream. Next week, assuming I'm pretty sure Aaron cannot be here next week, so hopefully Matt can. Next week, hopefully, we wrap up our annual look at Torchwood with Miracle Day: Escape to L.A., written by Jim Gray and John Shaban, starring John Barrowman as Captain Jack Harkness and Eve Miles as Gwen Cooper. We'll see you then.